I believe that when you have a breadth of knowledge, um, to some degree, you must have a depth of knowledge. And because of that, I think that watching more esports and getting involved in the scenes of more esports is the key to learning more about not only the esport itself that most interests you, but it is the key to also learning more about yourself in the context of esports. And very quickly, I want to get this out of the way. Thorn made a video somewhat recently about why watching more esports is good for you. But his was more in the context of it is good just because it's more entertaining or more fulfilling to watch more esports. This is more a discussion about why watching more esports will help you learn more about your main esport and discussing this topic of breadth of knowledge. Now, obviously people will watch this and immediately say some stupid shit like, if you watch all these different esports, you're just a jack of all trades and you're a master of none. Or they'll come up with some quick rebuttal like, if I want to know about like in-depth in lane swaps of League of Legends, or if I want to know like every like smoke or flash in Counter-Strike, then why would I watch like Hearthstone? Like, it's not going to help me learn that stuff. And you're right, if you want to learn specifics about a certain game, then just learn about the specifics of that certain game. But if you want to have like a very all-encompassing knowledge of your one game, it's my contention that you should watch many other games, and that will give you many other reference points to help you learn about your main game. So obviously I'm not saying that if you want to learn about like in-depth, like high-level mathematics, that you should watch like early American, or that you should learn a lot about early American history. Like if what you really want is just to hone into that tiny little speck of information, like you just want to know everything about a certain tiny little piece of Counter-Strike, then go ahead and do that. But if you want to know about all of Counter-Strike, I think there's other things you can learn. Like if you want to know more about X, if you want to know everything about X, you kind of want to know some things about Y at least. Okay. So if you want to go to college, if you go to college, so let's take that high level mathematics example. Let's say you go to college for, I don't know, like calculus or whatever, like some high level math is. I'm not a math major, so I don't really know what they do. You have to get 2 years at least of general education. So you got to do general education is when you do your English or your literature or science or art or whatever, physical education, gym class, all that other stuff. You're forced to do those classes, even though everyone knows that you're not going to really use those classes in the real world. To some extent, you're not going to use it for your job. You know it. The person taking the class, the teacher teaching it, knows that you're not going to really use it. The school providing the classes knows that you're not really going to use those general education classes. The government that pays for these classes knows that you're not really going to use them. So the question is, why does everyone want you to take them, and why do you want to take them? What makes these classes important? And it really kind of ties into esports in this sense. So the reason why is that the broad scope of knowledge that these general education classes give you, it lets you view your main area of study from many different perspectives, and it gives you different reference points to study your main area study from. So what does that mean? If you don't take these other classes, there's certain parts of yourself that you don't learn about. You don't get to learn what happens when you're presented with work or studies that you don't like or you don't want to do. And the most important reason, in my opinion, is that these different areas of study interlink. So it's kind of like your brain, the way it works is almost like a weird series of connect the dots. And if you've only ever studied math, you only have reference points from math available to solve problems. If you've studied even somewhat briefly other things, your brain will have a repertoire of reference points to bounce off of to solve problems and to form opinions, and just to generally think from. So you have all these different strings on your bow that you can use to fix things and to use into your job. And then that's where it links into esports. So as an example, I was originally a League of Legends guy. So all I did was League. There was never enough League content for me. I was always on the League Reddit or on Twitter, on my phone checking all the new League news, reading the articles, the analysts, all their opinions and all that shit, okay? And I was originally a fan of like skill-based teams, like the ones with like really mechanical players and team fighting, where it's all about like mechanical skill and like intuitive play, not so much the tower trading type teams, like the Korean style of trading a tower and then like sneaking a dragon and then like slowly, gradually getting a little bit of gold over the other team, and then like at 30 minutes, like you just happen to have like a 3 gold lead, even though you never killed anybody. That wasn't really my thing. Like I didn't enjoy watching it. So when I got into Counter-Strike, when I first got into Counter-Strike after that, so I'd already been doing League for a long time, I assumed that I would like the same type of teams and players. So I like the team fighting, skilled type mechanical guys in League. Therefore, when I go into CSGO, I'll definitely like the same general type of players in Counter-Strike. So I'd like, the mechanical guys, the free-flowing, loose style type teams. And I very quickly found out I was wrong. I hate those teams in Counter-Strike. I can't stand watching like a G2 or a Cloud9 or something. Or I guess if you go back in time, like vintage Fnatic with like the Dennis roster, where it was just like free-flowing. Even Pronax, I think, they were just very free-flowing. Like the tactics were very, very simple. It was more just about who could like pop off, and like they were just always that roster was so skilled. Like they would just pop off for no reason every game they played, every tournament, every final. Like even if tactically the other team had all the advantages and like they just matched up, where the other team was better than them strategically in every way, and like all the odds were against Fnatic, somehow Fnatic could win no matter what. It was bizarre. And as beautiful as Fnatic was because they were always to win, I think the style itself is ugly to watch. And it feels like I'm watching like a bunch of just like brain dead retards like aimbotting people when they win. Like it doesn't make sense to me. And I would, in Counter-Strike, I would much rather prefer to watch like the smartest team in the world, or at least like a smart team with a really good in-game leader. Like for example, FaZe before Kerrigan, I can't watch that. But FaZe after Kerrigan, it's not bad. I kind of enjoy watching it actually. So the teams I kind of like now are SK, Astralis, Dignitas, teams where there's kind of a clear system. So this difference was something for me to think about, right? Well, I had to think about this for a while myself. And other people are probably similar in this way. If they like a certain type of team in one game, maybe you like strategic teams in CSGO. And maybe you're like a very cerebral person, and then you starting to get into League, and you think you like all these strategic teams, but then you actually watch it, and you're like, what the fuck is this? You're not killing anybody, and you actually like all the skill-based aggressive teams. Maybe this will make you think a little bit about why you like one style in one game and another style in another game. Or maybe you'll realize there's an aspect of CSGO you never thought about that makes you like that certain type of aggressive play, and then that's why you don't like that certain type of play in another game. So when your thoughts are challenged by putting them into all these different realms of esports, it really makes you think more about the original one more. And another, so the next point that really made me realize why having these multi-disciplines or multiple disciplines and knowing multiple esports is important is that the concept of the in-game leader just isn't there in League of Legends, really. In League, we use the term shot caller. And so what a shot caller is it's the guy who calls out the map movements, or they call out when you should fight or team fight, or maybe he's like really micro players, like you buy a tier, you buy a ghost blade, and you save your teleport. Don't use it to get back to lane. Use it because we have a team fight in 12 minutes or something. So basically, the shot caller in League is a tactician. Like he moves the chess pieces, and that's his job. The concept is a smart guy who knows what to do, and he has this blueprint and this game plan, and he tells it to the other players during the game. And also in League, the shot callers are always running into trouble because they can't really control their players. Like it's a very widespread problem in League, at least in the West, where the shot caller can't control the player doesn't want to listen. The guys don't listen to what they say. The shot caller calls that they should, get ready for this team fight in 3 minutes, and then the guy just doesn't do what he needs to do to prepare for the team fight. People just emotionally, the shot caller doesn't have control over his team. Oh yeah, and another thing is that very often, people are just choking in League. So even if the shot caller says we have the optimal team fight in 3 minutes, go ahead and come in 3 minutes to the top laner or something, the top laner will come, but he's so he's all choking and there's so much pressure because it's a finals game, or it's on the international stage, or it's at Worlds, and people are just falling apart and crumbling. Even really great players in League. So the concept of the in-game leader in Counter-Strike has very clear distinctions from the shot caller in League. The in-game leader pretty much generally, for the most part, does all the things that the shot caller does. They fulfill the tactician role, and they call out whatever map movements or whatever they need to do to make the team run. But there's also the leader. The word leader in in-game leader is really crucial to what the in-game leader does. The in-game leader is also an emotional leader, for the most part, in most cases. They're making sure people listen. That's part of their job, being the leader of the team. They have to make sure people don't choke. They have to be there when it's overtime and it's 15-15 and it's for the $250,000 tournament, and they're on E-League on TV, and the next guy over to him is hyperventilating and freaking out, and you got to be the one. If you're the in-game leader, you got to be the one that tells him to calm down, and he's going to be able to get through this, and that you guys can win. So it's very different from shot callers. When the shot caller, they tell people to do something, and then the team can't handle it. In League, it's very rarely on the fault of the shot caller. But in Counter-Strike, it's very often the fault of the in-game leader if they don't follow through. Have you ever seen those sports movies with the incredible speeches like Denzel Washington or Remember the Titans or Miracle or Rocky? Or the coach of the team has an incredible speech, and that's the turning point that brings the team together, and they win, even though they're down 14 points on the last quarter of a football game or something. And that actually happens in Counter-Strike. The great in-game leaders, some of them actually do that. There's a beautiful clip of Shox doing this before a game versus NIP in E-League Season 1, I think. And it really does sound like a sports movie, and so I'm going to play it real quickly.
Fais pas attention à ça, juste soyez directement dans InGame, go crier, go s'enflammer, ok, comme hier, la même rage. Et les gars, s'il y a un pote qui se tape, tout de suite on va l'aider, ok, faut que ça soit énergétique. Il y a un mouvement sur une zone, tout de suite on fait un truc, on va aider un pote, ça flash, ça smoke, ça si, ça, ok, ça bouge, il y a de la vie, on joue à CS, on joue ensemble, on joue en teamplay. S'il y a un pote qui se tape, on va l'aider et nique sa mère. Si le mec en face il fait 3 kills, il fait une action vidéo, il ferait une action vidéo, on s'en bat les couilles. Mais c'est comme à la guerre, ok, on est entre nous, on est dans la même merde, on est les 5 doigts d'une main et il faut qu'on le ressente in-game, ok les gars?
Yeah, so that doesn't happen in League. I'll tell you that right now. There's a few people who can fulfill that role in League, but generally, shot callers don't, and that's a big difference in League and Counter-Strike. League doesn't have that role specifically, whereas every team in Counter-Strike has somebody, even if they're not good at that role, they have that title. So at least they're trying to make that happen in Counter-Strike. And in League, there's a huge number of people that don't even know this exists, that like this emotional leader figure. And that figure, it should apply to all games and all sports. But the concept doesn't even get talked about in League when it's a huge part of Counter-Strike. So that's one thing that I learned about League when I went into CSGO. And that's the second thing that I want to talk about this video. That the emotional leaders on a team are truly important. So as a side note, I think a breadth of knowledge and watching many esports, it's crucial to knowing more about your main esport. It's not just that watching esports is more fun or that there's more content out there to consume and more friends to make if you watch more esports, but it's more that if you want to know everything about X, you should know more about Y. And as for breadth of knowledge versus depth of knowledge, I think they're complementary, and one without